Daniel, how's it
How's
going?
it's going? How you doing, Phil?
Good. Good. Well, I'm doing all right for an old guy. You sent me a message. It was rather unique. It was like how you uh, parlay video games into leadership roles, or is it how it can being a gamer can help you prepare you for leadership? Is that what you're doing?
Prepares you for leadership. Yeah, the
Okay.
latter. That's because I come from this kind of unique angle. I don't know if I've heard anybody else talking about it this way. When you search gaming and jobs, right? It's usually like gaming related. Like how do you break into the gaming industry? How do you become a streamer, YouTuber, all these kind of things? And I'll say I'm here on a mission to share gaming as a whole just helps you always for whatever you're trying to do, especially getting into leadership roles, which is what happened to me. Right, because when we say that gaming helps, right, because most people think of it as this kind of, it's entertainment, and especially, back in the day it was considered what, like, a waste of time. Like, what are you doing with your life? I've heard that growing up too, right? So growing up 80s 90s, it's like, go get a real job. Like, what are you doing with this video game crap? And so I'll say, unfortunately, that's what I did. I went out and did what you're supposed to. I got a real job. All right. I did what you're supposed to do. So I felt like I was kind of on autopilot, but I always enjoyed games. And I finished like college. And it's like, okay, well, now what? It's like, well, now go get a job. Like, okay. And so I put my toe in the water. I actually worked at a GameStop, right? So, like, I was like, how can I do a little bit of games? It was so gaming retail. Okay, sure. So quickly became an assistant manager at a GameStop. And then it was so funny because then I had like my family and some extended family kind of coming to me too. It's like, is this it? Is this all you're doing? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I did what I was supposed to do. I got the job, right? It's like, no, you can do more, Daniel. You can do more. So I went back to school, do what you're supposed to, right? I felt like I was on autopilot there too. I'm like, I'll go back and get my MBA. Right. Came out of the MBA and got, scouted by one of these like big Fortune 500 companies and worked for them for, gosh, 15 years. And during that time, I was also like, is this it? Like, is this, you know, it's not really, and it wasn't gaming related. The one cool thing I will say about it kind of still felt like the stars aligned in a way, which is when I did the interview. So you have to imagine that, being a gamer, I learned pretty quickly. So I'm a big RPG fan, right? So Final Fantasy, Secret of Mana, the best video game of all time is Chrono Trigger. I don't care what anyone says.
We'll fight you in the street.
I will fight you. I mean, I love it. Zelda, all the good stuff. Like, I love it all. Chrono Trigger is just a masterpiece. But anyway, so I kind of come to find out whether it was, the SquareSoft, Square Enix now,
Hmm.
Nintendo, PlayStation, all those things growing up, I kind of quickly realized I was like, well, as a kid, like these companies are cool. Like, what it's, oh, they're all based in Japan. I was like, ooh, there's something to this Japan thing. I got to think about this. And so actually during college, I actually did a study abroad in Japan and actually like taught English over there for a little while too. And so when I go to after the MBA to get the real job, they're like, hey, we have some suppliers. I was going to work in supply chain. It's like, hey, so we have suppliers and they're actually based in Japan. I was like, aha, okay, this is cool and interesting. So it's not gaming, but at least I get to work with that kind of Japanese connection, which I kind of developed, from high school into college too. Get in there, and and during the interview they're like, oh, well, they're in Japan. Well, they're and so one of them's in Tokyo. Well, it's not really Tokyo, it's the suburb of Tokyo called Mitaka, and I bet you probably don't know where that is.
No, I don't.
And I looked at the interviewer and said, I know exactly where that is because that's where I
Nice.
went to school for a year. So I was like, wow, it's all lining up. This is great. So get into that. So working with the Japanese suppliers was really fun. And then like typical corporate America, I feel like it's always do more with less, right? So that between layoffs and all these kind of things, and it's just like it got to the point where it wasn't fulfilling anymore, and so that's when I kind of started moving away and started trying to think about what it is I was going to do my own thing, right? And then so this is where it kind of led to what I do now, which is coaching. So I do kind of two areas, but it's all gamer related, and that is gamification services, which gamification is just the simple act of adding game elements to otherwise boring or mundane tasks. And then, so in addition to the gamification side, it's also this kind of leadership experience, the growing future leaders, but using video games as the teaching tool or using your video game knowledge and skills as that kind of platform to say like, hey, you're actually further ahead than you think because of gaming. Let me show you how.
Yeah. What I've noticed for me, because I've been gaming since, I don't know, 1985, like, right now I'm trying to learn a new language, right? I'm trying to learn Czech because that's where my girlfriend's from. So I found an app. It makes it like a game. So for me, the gaming aspect makes it click in my brain better. And I know for some people, and plus it also makes it fun because if you're just trying to do some boring, mundane crap, and you're just like, and it just doesn't work. Yeah, and I think you're onto something really cool with that kind of integration. And I think that when, like, for example, we use augmented surgical robot. The robot itself is not autonomous, but the surgeon's at the console using the joysticks. So it's very, I mean, it's obviously not a game, but it's gives you the feel of it, because he's in the same room, but it's also, so I think there's probably some sort of application for training with video games in that environment. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Absolutely. So, and that part of it, I know a lot of the gamification that I've worked with and that I've seen others use is around training, right? It's like,
Mhm.
how can we make, because one of the key elements I think of gamification is engagement. How do we make it more engaging, whether it's for the client, the customer, or the employee, right? How do we get our employees to actually do the things that we want them to do? Well, we make it a little bit more of a game so that it's actually more fun and interesting for them to actually follow through.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I noticed that, like, when I have to do education at work, which is pretty frequent, because there's always new policies and things like that coming up, you know, it's, I'd rather stick bamboo shoots in my eyes. It's like, this sucks. Who wrote this? They should be publicly shamed because it's just not fun. But the ones that they actually take their time and they really put effort into it and try to make it, enjoyable, it really sticks out, and you actually wind up remembering the information better. To me, if it's monotonous, I'm just not going to learn it. So
Right, because part of it is it doesn't hold your attention either, right? So it's
Mhm.
just like you just kind of drop off and then you stop learning because you're like, this is boring, I don't care.
Yeah,
Right. Or if it is more engaging as a result, because like think of any video game you've ever played, you're always like pushed to the next level, to the next stage, to the next whatever, because it's fun and engaging.
hmm
So how can we make even training, right, more engaging as a result, right? And sometimes one of the things that I think gamification, when it's used poorly, I'll say, is when it's overcomplicated sometimes to the point of, or it's used in the wrong way, where it's like, well, we need to make training a game. It's like that's not exactly the same thing, right? Because the whole point of training is to learn. It's not for entertainment, right? So there's some people that use it too much. It's like it can, or like the perfect example was, I think there was somebody did like life insurance or something, be like, oh, it's just like a fun game, just play this game or spin a wheel and then this will be your discount on your life insurance. It's like, no, that's what are you doing? No,
game.
it's no, how can we add just little things to make it more engaging? Like a very simple thing is just simply a progress bar. Like how much am I even through this? Like, even if you probably noticed some trainings that you follow, they'll have like a little progress bar at the bottom, like, this is how many, this is what page you're on. Like, there's a video and then a question and then a video question. It has this little bar that keeps moving. That's really a simple element of gamification at, again, at a simple level. But there's a lot of people and a lot of trainings that just don't even do that. It's just kind of like, I don't know where I am in this training. I could be, I'm 20 minutes in. Is it another hour and a half? I don't know.
Yeah, and sometimes that 20 minutes feels like an hour and a half because it's just the most, like, I'd rather watch paint dry. But
Exactly.
so what? How long have you been gaming? I think most of your life, right?
Yeah. You mentioned 85. I'm like, I probably started 87, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah, because we're pretty close in age. Yeah.
yeah,
So
so I've been gaming since as long as I can remember. I started with the Atari 5200
wow.
was my first system, which we had for like a whopping like 2 months or something, because then the NES came out. And for those watching the video, that's the original NES right there. That's
Yeah.
mine. And so I don't know where the Atari went. I think that my parents gave it away to like a friend or a cousin or something. But yeah, so I still have the Nintendo, and that's not going anywhere. But yes. So I like to say, technically I had the Atari, but I really started with a Nintendo. So I've been gaming for decades. Yes, and I'll say it's definitely been just such a core part of my life that I just don't understand. Like it just doesn't even compute to me when people are like, I became an adult and I aged out of it, right? And I put that away, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like it's a core part of who I am. I could never imagine giving it
Yeah.
up.
It's like you'll see some, gym bro, gaming is such a waste of time. Get off. I'm like, The same could be. I mean, granted, obviously, I'll never shame somebody for going to the gym because it's a good activity and it's healthy and it adds longevity. But I will never. But I will defend video games always because it kept me out of trouble as a kid. Like I didn't want to. I just wanted to stay home and play Mario or whatever. My big thing was Mario 64. Once I got the Nintendo 64, when people want to take a dump on something that somebody likes, it's just you're a jerk. But
Yeah.
people like what they like no matter what. But no, for me, gaming has been a huge outlet. It's a way for me to decompress at times, and it's also, I mean, don't get me wrong, if you ever played a Soulsborne game, it'll test your blood pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I did the entirety of Elden Ring
Oh,
with the
yeah.
DLC, and that took moments off my life. Damn you,
Yeah.
Miyazaki.
Those are the hard ones for sure. But it brings to a good question I had for you actually, Phil.
Yeah.
So I like to ask this of a lot of gamers, and it's a very simple question. Why are games fun?
For one, I think it helps me with my critical thinking, and also it's. I think I'm a huge movie nerd too, right? But I think it's for me, it's more enjoyable than a movie because you're actually participating in the story. You're just not a passive.
Extra in a movie or something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're not a passive observer. You're an actual. You're progressing the story. I think that's what it does for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's huge, and I love that answer too because it goes back to your previous point too, as far as you mentioned, as far as like the gym bro and just like doing it. The people that I like to argue with on that is gym. Yes, great, go to the gym, work out. You work out a lot. Okay, that's maybe there's some toxicity there, but
Of
whatever.
course.
But you're like hey, you're improving your body, great job. The people I don't understand are the ones that are the couch potatoes that sit and watch Netflix for 8 hours after they get home from work and they're like, yeah, but video games are a waste of time. I'm like, are you serious?
It's the same thing. You just don't have a controller in your hand.
I'm like, and that's why I argue. I'm like, but games are actually more engaging. You're actually engaging your mind. You're actually doing things like you have more cognitive function and you're having that kind of like, sure, they can both be, entertainment and escapism, but you're actively working your mind playing the games. Like this is
Hmm.
why some games, they even put like video game consoles in like nursing homes to keep, the elderly brain active. Right.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah.
understand how me playing a game for like 2 hours versus your Netflix time for 8. I'm like, I
Mm,
don't understand.
yeah. Come down off your pedestal.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, like, I get it if some people they just don't have the hand-eye coordination to play. Like, I hate to use this as an example, but your Call of Duties or your Battlefields, it does take a lot of dexterity in the hands and the brain, and it's a lot. You're getting a lot of information at once, and you have to process it. I mean, is it, I tried Battlefield. I used to be a huge Call of Duty fan until all the cheating and all that. But we can actually talk about the state of gaming for if you don't mind. But
Yeah, and I love to and to finish the one point previous. So I'd love to talk about the industry
mhm,
as far as like games being fun,
mhm,
right? So to
right,
finish the point, because yes, I think the active engagement in the story is huge, and I think there's a huge part of that. And so I think your answer is great because it's also different for everyone, right? So
exactly,
why do we play games? Because they're fun, but the reason they're fun is different for everyone. Which is why so many different games and so many different genres exist, right? Because if it was one type of game, that would be one thing. But the fact that you can play this array, because like I said, these RPGs, right? The JRPGs, the Japanese role playing games, like the Final Fantasies, and then adventure games like Legend of Zelda. And it took me a long time to actually realize why. Right, because I did call it some soul searching, or just kind of like really asking myself the hard question, be like, why do I like these games over others? And I came to the answer that it was my grandfather because it was what hero worship, right? But to me, my grandfather was my hero, and I won't go into maybe too many specifics, but he was this. You have to also think this is decades ago. He was a politician, and he was a good politician. I know a lot of people recently probably don't think that, but rewind 20, 30 years ago, good politician. So he was one of I think one of the greatest statesmen ever, and he was my hero, right? And so me as like the 6, 8 year old whatever looking up to him, like he's basically affecting huge like national like world change. How do I do that as a 6 or 8 year old?
right,
I can save the world in a video game.
right,
That's how I could do it.
yeah.
So it was a way of just like I didn't realize it at the time, but like later on, I was like, this is why I like this because it's like, oh, I get to be like him and I get to save the world in my own little way, and so that just kind of like just stuck for me.
No, it makes sense. I mean, I don't. have a I mean, my grandfather, I knew him very shortly because he died when I was very young, but the time that I did have with him, I really looked up to him, and he was probably one of my favorite people ever. So I understand where that comes from because your parents love you, but your grandparents love you unconditionally, I think. So I think there's a bit because like it's a different your parents have that stern love because they have to raise you. Your grandparents get to spoil you, so it's a different type of thing. You know what I mean? So yeah, but well, thanks for sharing that. That's really cool, man. I mean, can I ask what state was he a politician in?
Tennessee.
Tennessee. Okay, cool. So, but yeah, like what we were in, talk about the state of gaming. I think I told you before we started recording. I think that we've hit the peak, 15, 20 years ago. But that might not be fair because, like, I remember seeing the PS2 when it came out, and it was like, that's gonna be more than 20 years, though, right? That's been
Yeah.
20 plus. So I don't know. Maybe I should, but I just think that there's only so much further that they can push the limits of what it's going to be, and you're going to have to be like AI, VR, and then also just the regurgitation of so many different. It's the same like Battlefield and Call of Duty are the same games.
Yeah, they're the same game, and they're on their the variant of each, right?
Yeah,
So,
and it's like
the
just
latest
stop.
one as of recording is Battlefield 6 just recently came out. It's not the sixth Battlefield. There's more than that.
Yeah, exactly.
They're all good.
And then they want you to pay. Like the Nintendo Switch 2 just came out, and it's like $80 a game now. Or something like that.
Yeah.
It's getting to be.
Mario
I mean,
Kart
and then
World,
I just
$20.
yeah.
So what you're saying, I mean, it makes a whole lot of sense. So the industry has definitely gotten to where let's talk AAA first,
Okay.
right? So we're
Sure.
talking Battlefield, we're talking Call of Duty, we're talking these big games, these big franchises. To me, and I can kind of poke also maybe at the movie industry too, where it's both industries are kind of at this point right now where they don't want to take risks. They don't want to take chances. And so what's the safe bet? And a lot of it is, sequels and nostalgia, right? So
Mhm.
sequels and remakes.
Right.
And the games industry, especially in the AAA studios, is the same way. This is why we get, FIFA 26. And this is why we get Madden, 35. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, and this is why we get Call of Duty and Battlefield. So these are the safe bets, but it is getting to the point where they don't put in as much effort, they don't put in as much work, or they're not kind of connecting as much with the gamer themselves. So I would say we're actually in an indie renaissance right now. We're just starting now that these small indie studios. So we talk about AAA, the really big studios, and then there's like the indie developers, like the 1 to 10 developers, maybe like a studio of 30 at the most, right? These kind of games, they're not going to be these super blockbuster hits, although some of them do take off. Like, have you heard of Stardew Valley? So check out Stardew Valley. And so this kind of addresses 2 points where it's an indie game. It's made by one dude.
Really? Okay.
I think he hired like a publisher to help with like that side of it, but like development, one dude.
Wow.
And this Stardew Valley game that you can buy on Steam, right, for PC, did so well. We're talking millions of copies sold.
Wow.
Multi-millions. So dude is like I said, one developer, he is set for life. But what does he do? He's going back and updating the game. Okay, we're talking about a guy who is like, he doesn't have to work a day in his life ever again. But he loves his creation and he loves the community so much that he goes back and does it, on his time. Because I mean, he's still selling copies of the game because it's so big and so popular, but he doesn't need to. Whereas these big AAA studios, we do this big blockbuster thing, and then okay, now we got to go do the next one, so we can charge the customer another $80 the next year. Stardew Valley, like $20.
That's insane. And
Yeah.
that just tells you that passion for me, or let me do that again. That just tells you that passion trumps profit. You know what I mean? Like one of my favorite games is Valheim. I've been playing that for years now, and that's like 6 people. I think they're Swedish. I think I don't know for sure, but and then also there was a game years ago. It was called Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. That was made by Ninja Theory. At the time, they were a very small studio. It was like 6 or 7 people, and that thing blew up. And it was because of how much. I don't know if you played that one or not, but
No, I haven't played that one.
it goes into this woman, Senua, and she has psychosis. And they actually developed the game with people who have psychosis, like
Wow.
schizophrenia, and
Yeah.
the voices in her head are there, and it's like it's very unsettling and not easy to play. The gameplay in itself, it's puzzle. It's a puzzler slash hack and slash, and there's some other elements in it, but it's very like it's dark, it's gritty. It's like it kind of makes you. It's not something that's easily digestible. It's not something that you play to relax. You know what I mean? It's something that
Right.
if you want to be challenged and you want to sleep with the lights on.
There you go.
So no,
Right,
but
and that's what I love about games is that there's a whole array of different genres, and so games can make you feel how they want you to feel, right? So that's what a unique and like kind of I'll say again fun example of something you can do with games.
yeah,
And then so I think, and for the Stardew Valley, complete opposite end of the spectrum there, where it's a cozy farming simulator game.
okay,
And it does have like a combat aspect to it too. You can go down in like a little dungeon and fight little monsters or whatever. But it's mostly a farming sim game, right? And we're talking this cozy little game that has sold millions and millions of copies. So it doesn't have to be Battlefield, Call of Duty, just blast each other in the face.
mm-hmm.
No, just hang out on a farm and grow crops.
Right, exactly.
Millions
Well,
of copies.
since we're talking about gaming and you and I are doing a podcast at the moment, let's talk about YouTube streamers. I think now, listen, I'm all for people making money and doing their thing, but I think that when people started streaming games for content and for profit, right? I think it got rid of casual gamer. I don't watch any of them anymore. I was watching one. His name was Expel, and he's kind of a bigger one on YouTube. And he just became he was like because when Call of Duty did Battle Royale casuals, it was just mostly bots and some real people in it. And it was made it fun for people like me who don't really play those games that often, and you just don't go there and get killed every 4 seconds, you know. And he's like, "Oh, this needs to go away. It's just killing the lobbies and blah 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 blah." And I'm like, "Then I don't know what to tell you. Then just don't play that mode."
No, all good. I guess it's interesting trying to take on it. So, because YouTube streaming for content for profit. So, like, as far as killing casual games, which
Mhm.
killing casual gamers, I say, if at least from my point of view, I'll say that it's definitely changed, but I don't think it's killed it by any stretch.
I guess maybe killing it. I mean,
Killing is maybe too much, but as far as like, I'll say there's kind of two things though. Like, it's the games, like playing games for that versus like the people that are trying to make it right.
right.
I mean, I'll admit that, like, I even did Twitch for like a little while myself, just to kind of, like it was while I
Figured.
was working full time, so it was like I couldn't put the time in it to, like Twitch, you really have to dedicate a lot of time to be a
Yeah.
streamer if you want to get big or whatever. I'm like, well, just a couple nights a week after work is like, yeah, it's not going to cut it. Uh, so it was mostly just for passion.
No, listen, I mean, I'm not saying that any of those people are bad people or anything like that. It's their job,
Mhm.
basically. And someone who's not as good at the game and they start dogging on them because they're not good at the game. Does that make
Yeah,
sense? It just
yeah.
it comes across as being elitist.
I've seen some of that content, and I don't know. It's to some people that's their jam, I guess. But like,
I
yeah,
guess.
I don't agree with that as far as just kind of like shitting on other people, like as you're
Mm-mm.
saying. Like, I don't
Yeah.
get that.
No.
So those, and typically I'll say that those kind of come from a lot of those. They tend to play the more toxic games as a result. Like they're playing the Call of Duties and maybe some Battlefields and whatever. I love the streamer community for like again those kind of cozy games, or
Of course.
like I said, or even the RPGs, right? Because like you're sitting there playing and it's just kind of their take on it or their experience. And I see the streaming for like it seems like there's two different groups. Yeah, I'm sure there's more. But the two
Right.
main
Yeah.
categories I see is these are the people that have played the game
Mm-hmm.
and they enjoy the game, and they're going to watch this guy play the game,
Mhm.
and so that they can kind of connect with them. So going back to why are games fun? One of the other things that I know a lot of people, and so those listening might, vibe with, is that it is all about connection, right? It's all about like, hey, we have a shared experience
Mhm.
through this game that we've played, even if it's single player. Even if you've played the game and I played the game, we both have the same shared experience and we can talk about it and be like, oh, what did you do for that part? What did you do for this? Like, when did
Mhm.
you get that item? Like,
Yeah.
how was
Exactly.
how was this boss or whatever for Elden Ring, right? Like, you can
Yeah.
talk about that. Like, and the second person is the people that have never seen the game, or as you mentioned, games are getting expensive, right? So it's like, all right, well, I don't want to necessarily play game X or whatever, but maybe I want to see if it's any good. I'll watch somebody play it,
Yeah.
right?
Valheim and Diablo. Because
Diablo.
I did Diablo 4. That's how me and my friends. That's how we all hang out. So Diablo and those kinds of games and they really, to me, it's like if you don't have time to like go to their house and hang out, or to go and go out to eat or whatever, if it's like, you want to just hang out for a couple hours, you hop on X game and play, and you just get to have a good time with your friends and talk shit, and there you go. It's just basically what it really is for me. The three of us, we game once a week. It's usually Thursdays, and we really just kind of, I look forward to those days because it's fun. It gives you a chance to unwind and relax. But I think people that don't understand the community behind video gaming, it's outside looking in shit. And if you've never played, you don't know. And that's like, I would love to learn how to hunt, but I would never say that someone that hunts is bad or an idiot or whatever, or lazy,
Yeah.
that's probably a bad analogy, but I'm not a smart man. So there you go.
I think what you're saying is it depends on like the community outside looking in to see like how does this experience
Hmm.
work truly,
Right.
right? Because there's definitely certain people that some things might are more, I'll call it intuitive as a result, like it, but something is just as simple as, I'll say even cooking, right? Like you go into cooking, you're like, all right, well you're just prepping the whatever. It's like it doesn't even matter. It's like, well, there's definitely people that have different reasons for this, right? Cooking can be like, all right, this is something I'm good at, something I can share. Maybe it is community where it's just like I want to I want to share with others, right? It's like, or it's the other way, like I want to pull from like my heritage or something, like I want to showcase like where I came from and the food that. And so there's like different reasons that people cook. So there's also different reasons people game. So
Yeah.
it's the same result. And so understanding the culture behind it too, so that, and I think you're absolutely right. I think that's another reason that gaming especially gets a little bit more of that bad rap, or like, or is not seen for what it is most of the time, because it is a little bit more hidden in that respect, where you have to know that there is online communities and it's not just 12-year-olds yelling at each other
Hmm.
over getting killed in Call of Duty.
Yeah, because I can remember back in like, I think it was 2007, when Call of Duty 4 came out, or Modern Warfare, and it was like, we would all I had a whole lobby full of friends, or like at least the team, like seven people, and it was almost a nightly thing that we would just hang out and play till 2 in the morning, and I
Yep.
have to get up the next day, and it was so much fun. But then at some point, the scale shifted and it turned toxic, and it's like, I mean, I could tell you some of the stuff that I'm not going to repeat it, because some of the stuff I heard in some of those old school lobbies is just, should be a war crime, you know?
Some of it still happens now, right? Whether it's Call of Duty or I think like even Overwatch, that's one that Overwatch 2, I guess now. But like, yeah, you can go into some of those lobbies and then you just get blasted, right? And,
Hmm. Yeah, but I think I'm focusing a little too much on the toxicity. I need to stop.
but yeah, I mean, it's good to say because it exists, yes,
Yeah.
but it doesn't exist everywhere. Like
No.
it's not a like gaming equals toxic. Like no, like
No, not at all.
there's certain games that tend to draw that, and it tends
Hmm.
to unfortunately be a lot of these first person shooters. But that's where I'd love to talk about just kind of where that's one aspect of it, and I think that's one aspect that is more verbal, or at least more
Hmm.
noticeable as a result.
Right.
But there's this, call it the iceberg, right? Like here's what you see underneath it. Here's your action adventure. Here's your RPGs. Here's your cozy games that just make up the bulk of all the gamers
Hmm.
that are not toxic.
Absolutely. How did it work for you to get gaming to tie into leadership? How did you bridge that gap?
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to the story of the Fortune 500 company, so it kind of came to fruition while I was at work, right? So yeah, not what I'm doing now, but like what kind of gave me the first kind of inkling of it when it kind of first clicked, right? So I told you I was doing what I was supposed to do, right? I felt like I was on autopilot for so long. So doing all the things you're supposed to do, it finally hit a head when, like I said, I worked in supply chain, working with these Japanese suppliers, very good to work with. Occasionally they make mistakes like we all do. And so they made this one mistake that really fucked us over at one point, right? So like we're gonna miss a certain shipment. Customer's not gonna get their stuff. We're gonna lose out on a multi-million-dollar deal. So it was on me to get it. And I was like, it's physically impossible because they dropped the ball. So okay. So because it was such a big deal, we had to make sure that to right size that. So you have to imagine uh, we had again time difference, right? So it's like, all right, you're gonna have to be on these guys' ass for like the whole week, right? With the time difference in Japan, that means we're having calls at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. every day. Like, this is ridiculous. And it took a while to fix. So it went on for like 2 weeks. So I had no personal life for 2 weeks. It was just like you come home, you have dinner, you immediately jump on a call. Right. And that lasts for a few hours. And then you go to bed and you wake up, you do it again. And it's like, now it's your workday. And it's like, this is ridiculous. And I remember venting to my boss at the time. And I'll say, fortunate for me, I had a good boss. He was a friendly dude, so I could kind of joke with him, kind of vent to him, and it was all good. So I was just so friendly venting, right? And so I was just like, oh, I can't believe they did this. The supplier, they screwed us up. Like, I can't believe we're gonna lose, and now we're on these like freaking twice a day calls for weeks. This is ridiculous. And I'll never forget the words he said back. He said, "Yep, well, this is the life we chose." And I was like, yeah, yeah. But inside, I was screaming. I was like, I didn't fucking choose this. I didn't get screwed over and have no personal life. This is ridiculous. I
Exactly.
didn't choose this shit. And then I started to calm down. Again, that was all internal, right? It was
Yeah, of
outside.
course.
I was just like, yeah. And then I walked off. But internally, I had to like kind of calm down. I was like, wait a minute. I did choose this. I chose by not choosing.
Exactly.
So I was like, okay, I got to get on this. So I'm going to do, again, I got to, it's either like move up or move out at this point. I'm like, all right, I got to change this. So I go to my boss and I was like, hey, I'm ready. I'd like a raise and a promotion. I'd like to move up in the organization, right? That's what you're supposed to do, right? Climb the corporate ladder. Yes. And he's like, yeah, I like where your head's at. Unfortunately, we just don't see your leadership potential.
Ouch.
I was like, gut punch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just don't understand this corporate leadership thing. Okay, well, I had to sit and think on that. And you have to imagine around the same time at night, again, when the supplier weren't screwing me over, I was playing online. I was playing an MMO, massively multiplayer online game for those that don't know. And we were playing SWOTOR, Star Wars The Old Republic. So the big Star Wars MMO. And I was part of, I was like the guild leader and our raid leader. Raids being the high end content, the super difficult content you do in like teams of 8. And again, hardest thing you can do in the game. And we were doing like the latest one, the cutting edge one. And we got to this final boss, and you have to imagine raiding in that game, like it takes weeks to like learn the fight and get it down and get it, so you can actually beat it and get like the loot and everything. So we've been wiping on this guy, just like party, just dead constantly. Like, and these are like, that last fight was like a 20-minute fight. And everybody all 8 people have to be perfect during a 20-minute fight. And if anyone screws up, nope, start over again. So so talk about one of those, like, beat yourself up over these kind of things. But we worked on it. We progressed and finally we beat it. Right. And then everybody's like lit up in like what I think it was even before Discord, right? So in Ventrilo and whatever it was. So on the voice chat, everybody's blowing up like, oh my gosh, we did it. So fantastic. Great job, everybody. Yay. One of the guys says like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we did it. This is so great. I'm like, yeah. He's like, no, you don't understand. We're number 2. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, no, we're number 2 on the server to have completed this content. Like, we're in the top 1% of the world in clearing this content. I was like, oh, well, that's fucking cool. Yes, thank you, Daniel. You've been such a great leader. And I was like, wait a minute. He didn't say guild leader. He didn't say raid leader. He said leader. And that's when it started to click. I was like, wait a minute. Leadership is leadership. It doesn't matter where you learn it, right? It's just applying it to the right context. I was so stuck in, I don't understand corporate leadership, not realizing that I had all these leadership skills from running raids in a guild in a game, that as soon as I reframed it in my mind, I was like, well, I can just use the same stuff I'm doing. I just haven't been at work because it seemed different, and therefore they haven't seen it. So sure enough, I was like, okay, well, I'll just start doing the same things I do with a raid in the game at work. And so sure enough, I started working with like cross-functional teams and actually leading these like cross-functional teams across the organization and the business. And I tell you, within 3 months, I got a raise and a promotion. And they're like, wow, you really picked up your leadership skills like really quick. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, you just didn't know that I already had them.
Yeah, they were there the whole time.
Yeah, I had them the whole time. So then fast forward years later, obviously, like I said, that my story of like, I got kind of disillusioned and more people layoffs, and I had like more, less fulfilling work, more work. And I was like, all right, I'm finally done and out. And I was like, all right, what can I do? Like, I don't necessarily want to work corporate America anymore. What do I want to do? What if I could take what I learned about taking my gaming experience, skills that I learned by playing games, and helping other gamers in their careers and their businesses? And that's where I got to what I'm doing now. So especially around leadership, because that's kind of that's my example. And so I've had, so in addition to the games and other things that, I've definitely developed a lot of leadership skills over the years. I'm like, hey, I can teach you leadership skills, and if you're a gamer, I can show you how you're almost already all the way there.
Yeah.
Let me just
Well,
show you the bridge. Yeah.
yeah, and it's also, especially if you're don't play those types of MMOs. I've tried them. It's just not my area. When you were mentioning that raid, it shows you that if you don't have someone who's in charge and who can actually do it, lead people the right way, it'll just all go to shit, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that not only does it help with leadership, but it also helps with critical thinking and actually being able to perform outside of the box. Like, because sometimes there was an old Metal Gear Solid game. I think it was Metal Gear. You had to switch the controller port to
Mm-hmm.
beat the guy.
Yes.
So to even think of doing that is it just you have to. I'm not saying you're going to cure the world, but what it's going to do is it's going to just open up different parts of your brain for more critical thinking
Yeah.
skills. Is what I'm trying to say in a
And your
very
gaming
long worded
can
way.
cure the world, and we can get into that example too.
Okay, hit me.
But yeah, to finish Metal Gear Solid, that one. I love that because Metal Gear Solid 1, right,
Mhm.
where you had to plug the controller thing in,
Yeah.
and I love the other thing too, where like, oh, you had to contact Meryl with your codec, right, thing, and it's like,
Mhm.
well, what's the number? It's like, oh, it's on the back of the CD case. Like, what CD case? Like, you're fumbling around looking at all the desks trying to figure out what CD cases you're talking about. No, he's talking about the actual physical CD that came with the game.
Game,
It's
right?
on the back of the packaging, and I'm like, that's freaking crazy. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I
Like
love
if you're
that.
not paying attention, you don't get the reward.
Exactly. But yeah, so gaming can save the world. So what what do I mean by that? Right. So this goes back to the also part of the gamification aspect of it. So have you heard of a game called Fold It? Is it Fold?
I think so, but I don't know anything about it.
It might have been in the news 15 plus years ago at this point.
Okay.
It's been a while since this example, but this is why this is so important. So Fold It is a game about protein folding.
Okay.
Right? We're talking so we're talking like genetic engineering, bioengineering kind of thing, right?
Mhm.
And it was created by, I believe, the University of Washington. And it was meant to be for the protein folding because AI is not that great, and especially 15 years ago wasn't.
Yeah.
Computers are not good at folding proteins. Like
Okay.
they don't kind of understand. It's something that like a human mind can get behind, can intuit more. And so like I guess the whatever the nonlinear kind of equations that would have to make it work is just way too much computing, so the AI can't really do it. But human minds can do it pretty easily. So they're like, hey, how can we get people to basically test, like, how do we get more testing on folding of proteins so that we can make it like in medications and fight viruses and stuff? Like, we need to be able to fold proteins, and we need testing around this. So they created a game that they could put the kind of equations or problems to say like, hey, we want to make a drug that does this, and like, so it's kind of this crazy 3D shape that's just like you need to like change all these different parameters to see how it all kind of lines up so it can fit into this perfect spot. So that's like, this is the exact measurements you need to make the right medication to attack the virus, right? So you have to imagine, so the big, I guess, the scary sickness virus, right? When you and I were growing up was HIV/AIDS,
Yeah.
right? How much do you hear about that these days? Not a lot. Why is that? It just kind of dropped off the map, didn't it? Well, come to find out, they had a drug that they were testing, and I think it was still on. I want to say like the apes or monkeys at this point, but it was some kind of a medication for an HIV related AIDS treatment
Mhm.
that they put into Fold It. So you have to imagine. Again, we're talking about HIV/AIDS for those that lived in the 80s and 90s, where it was everywhere. So it stumped scientists, stumped them on how to fix this problem for over 10 years. I want to say it was 10. gosh, it was actually 15, right? It was like 15 years a stretch where scientists were just stumped. They could not figure out how to cure or even inhibit HIV. So they put it into Fold It as a game, and gamers solved it. They solved HIV/AIDS.
Yeah.
And not only did they solve it, it took scientists 15 years to not do it. It took gamers, you want to guess how long?
2 years.
15. It took them 15 days.
I was gonna say, yeah.
It took barely 2 weeks for gamers to solve what scientists could not figure out in 15 years.
Right.
All because it was put into a game, right? And it's marketed as this hallmark example of gamification. To be like, if you could put something interesting and engaging, and especially if the output of actually finishing or winning the game
Mhm.
is actually a social or medical benefit, this is
Yeah.
what we need to be doing.
100%. I agree.
100%.
Yeah.
And it's used as this gamification example. And I dug into it a little bit further. And as far as yes, gamification good. Where I stand from, my point of view is that not only is gamification and that whole area of gaming good, gamers themselves are so powerful, because guess who it was? It was gamers. It was actually University of Washington students who were gamers that were the first, yeah, and were playing this Fold It game because they knew about it. Again, a game created by a university, not super popular. Didn't get a whole lot of widespread attention until it hit the news. And then, digging into the articles and looking at it, it was the students, it was the gamers, the ones that self-identified as, oh yeah, I play video games. They're the ones that solved HIV/AIDS,
That's
which led
amazing.
to all the treatments that we have now.
And it also it also piggybacks something that when you're looking at a problem for too long and you give it to somebody else, and or you give it to a group of people, and it actually tells you that, and I hate to say the adage, but sometimes it just takes a village, to crack the problem. And that's just that's a cool story, man. I didn't even know that it happened, because I've been in the medical field for 25 years, and that's the first I've ever heard that. That's actually, it's pretty amazing. That just tells you that people can come together and accomplish something great, even, and it has to do with video games, so that makes it even better.
Make it even better. I
So
absolutely agree. It's that, in part of it, I think, is also that the diversity of background, right? To just coming at it from those different angles, right? Different set of eyes on it, kind of thing. But putting it in a gaming context, right? That can really drive at engagement, because that's just so huge and so powerful, right? And we could spend another hour talking about that, just as far as like how deep you can go in terms of whether it's, like I said, I work with customer engagement. How do you make the user or the customer experience more fun and engaging so that they'll want to come back to your website, your app, or whatever? So I've worked with a few apps where you can, how do we get the players to log in every day? Or like you said, with some of the language ones, right? Like, how do you get the streaks and the bonuses to, like, hey, how do we get them to learn every day? Or even just, like I said, the employee engagement. How do we get our people to be more motivated to actually do the work that you want to do? And just, like, even working with a company, like a production company, like, so I can't give names, but like one of the customers is like Netflix, right?
yeah,
So but there's like a disconnect, right, between the actors and like the backstage, or the people in the office are like, hey, they're doing really cool stuff, but they don't get to hang out on set with like the actors and stuff. It's like, well, how can you bridge that gap? How can we make them more interesting and engaging to kind of bring that experience into the office, right? So all these kind of things that just make it so much more fun, right? Like, wouldn't it be great if work was like fun?
yeah, it would be. I mean,
A lot more
yeah,
productivity out of it too, which the management likes, right?
yeah. Where can people find you? And you have a podcast as well, correct?
Yes. So I talk about, like, a lot what we're talking about here. So it's called Game Your Future, and podcast you can find on YouTube and Spotify. And it's really just, interviewing even people like yourself, just like you fellow gamers. And I do have some non-gamers on there too, just to be like, what do you think about gamification and the value of it? And really just trying to help. It's kind of both, like, how do we get the word out about gamification, how powerful it is, and to the gamers themselves to just say, like, hey, how can we pull out that gamer knowledge and power and actually use it to advance, whether it's your business or career. And if you guys are interested in like the gamification aspect of it, or even want to learn how you can use your own gaming skill to kind of level up your leadership skills, your career, I do have a website as well, right? And so I can do like coaching, like one-on-one, like help you directly. So check out dragonmorexp.com, and have a little quest on there that you can go on yourself. So like I said, gamify it, make it fun and interesting. So you can go on your own quest there today.
You can find me on YouTube and Spotify. And thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you.